This podcast is recorded on Aboriginal land. We pay our respects to elders past and present and recognise that sovereignty was never ceded. Welcome back to the Radical Online Leftist Pipeline Podcast. My name is Mitch Alexander.
I'm Tom Taneke.
I'm Celeste Little.
I'm Jordan Vandenlam.
I'm coming in hot. We're all coming in hot because we were just talking about like actually how we want to structure the what we want to talk about this week. And I've only found this out in the last half hour. Jordan, I think you found out now.
Yeah, 10 seconds ago.
This headline from Crikey. Killer cop Zachary Rolfe promoted for 10K speaking gigs and maybe writing a book.
What's this maggot done that's not killed someone? Like, what's the other achievements to his name? What's the other feathers in his fucking cap?
The only thing I can think of, and this is really fucking grim and a really fucking grim indictment on this country, is that in this day and age where you can be famous for being famous, where if you're known, that in itself is cultural capital, this cunt is known. Doesn't matter for what. We just recognize his fucking name. And so people then just go, oh, well, I'll just hear from him. I'm sure he's got something to say because I recognize his fucking name. The man fucking charged with murder of someone in what seemed to be a fucking pretty clearly premeditated attack. Guy who hangs out with a disgraced war hero, war crime extraordinaire Ben Robert Smith.
His mentor.
Yeah.
Like...
And I'm going to take a punt. It is because he killed someone. Precisely because he killed an Indigenous person that he's getting those gigs. That's the punt I'm going to take. Because we're in the age of Kyle Rittenhouse, aren't we? You know, your fame derives with racists and racist institutions in a racist fucking country from your act of racism, from your fame to racist. So without knowing what other feathers lie in Zachary Rolfe's cap, I'm going to take a guess it's because of the murder that he committed. Allegedly. Is that allegedly, or where are we at with that?
He was acquitted. He was acquitted of murder.
Oh, sorry, Zachary.
Yeah, no, he was sacked from the force, but acquitted of murder and manslaughter, according to Rick Mortem here in Crikey. So any imputation about what this cunt did is pure speculation on everyone's part. I don't know if he's actually gotten many of these roles. It says here in the Guardian article, offered speaking services on, quote, leadership, ethical decision-making, which is just that thing too where evil people, like those especially in the fucking Liberal Party, they love like rubbing everyone's face in it. Like they'll always be corrupt in the exact ministry that they hold. Like you're not going to see like the defense minister be corrupt when it comes to like rural water services. It'll be something to do with the military. So the fucking gall of this cunt to do ethical decision-making things.
We need to also cover, I think, that it's not just the goal of him. It is the goal of this agency to promote him. You know, to be more than willing to take a cut from this bloke who... regardless of whether he was acquitted or what, he was responsible for the death of this man. This man fell to his death through the actions of this cop. Does that cover it legally? But somebody has decided, let's put him on the books and let's give him a couple of tours here and there. Maybe he can, fly up to some sort of mining site and give a speech or something, and we can rake in the millions from our commission from him. Like, what the actual fuck? Where's the ethics in?
So let's be super clear. It's Platinum Speakers.
Yes,
that's the name of the company, and they've now taken his profile down, and they say we do not work with him, but we've got fucking screenshots.
Yeah, like you can't. Your ass covering now, but also he was speaking at what's it called? The Frontline Summit Purpose in Service and Beyond event thing, which is like a first responders fucking conference. That's what he's speaking to other cops and paramedics and stuff like that. And like, are you serious? This is the guy that you want to do that?
That's the other thing I was thinking of. Like, there's the goal of him to try this. There's the fucking Platinum Speakers who thought that maybe they could like make some money off of the back of him and his infamy. But any fucking group, any organization, any event that decided to fucking have this cunt speak is morally decrepit. What the fuck is that? Who looks at that? And like, even purely fucking cynically, who goes, well, we got to defend our boys in blue and we got to fucking, treat them right afterwards. And he is a bloody hero. And so I'm going to publicly associate with him. That speaks to a moral rot in our fucking country on that. That's what I don't like, that they can look at that and go, oh, there's no social cost to having this piece of shit speak.
I promise I'll do my homework and I'll come back to next episode with a bit more information about it. I'm sitting there and sort of zoning out while I do idle Googling, and I'm not getting anywhere too quickly. So instead of doing that, my homework is to come back and find out next week. I'll talk about who it is that unless we all know by then. I doubt it. I doubt it'll get too much traction outside of our circles. I'll come back and I'll talk about who put this on, and maybe we can talk about why you would put Zachary Rolfe on. So that's my homework, everyone. Disgusting. Isn't it? Fucking country.
Now, that said, Tommy, sure you don't want to make some just wildly off-the-cuff, ill-informed remarks like the rest of us.
Defamatory content.
Zachary Rolfe is a and I'm See, you can't put that on, can you? You have to edit that bit out and people have to wonder what I said. I'm in the face. No, stop saying things that you can't.
But no, I mean, this for me, this is fucking just also, I mean, and I understand the time difference in like the reporting when they found it and, good on the journalists for sort of bringing it up now at the very least. But we've had like across a fortnight, we had fucking 3 deaths in custody.
Yeah, and one of those deaths in custody, the Alice Springs one that we talked about, was from the same community as Kumandra Walker.
Yeah.
It's just that community has suffered so much out of Yuendamu. It's ghoulish. It's actually ghoulish that this could be a money-making spinner for this prick that a speakers agency can also make money from it. And meanwhile, you've just got Walpre continuously ending up dead at the hands of the authorities over and over again. It's
he shouldn't even be able to show his fucking face around town. Yeah. That's my view. He shouldn't even be able to. It's a fucking shocker.
Yeah. It's that when people want to sort of say, and I don't think many listeners of this podcast would, but like, this country's not racist. It's not really a racist country. What we mean, beyond just like how often individual gronks will say a fucked thing, we're talking about this. We're talking about Zachary fucking Rolfe being a potential moneymaker for a company, for first responders to want to listen to him, for people to be sort of saying, well, the courts did their job and let bygones be bygones. And meanwhile, there is no fucking justice. There is no legal justice, let alone fucking moral justice in this colony for any of the atrocities that are committed against people, especially Indigenous Australians. It's fucked. And we don't deal with it properly. We don't talk about it properly. We don't reckon with it properly. We don't have the mass media and the cultural institutions tackling this shit, this rot at our fucking heart as a nation. It's disgusting. It fucking disgusts me.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking hell.
On the other hand, I do, on my other monitor, I have a live view of
Jesus Christ, Tom.
Now, hang on, everyone. That didn't mean that I'm waiting for civilians to die. I'm very hard line on this. I'm not, even if you live in an ethno state, I do not want you as a civilian to die. That for me is a red line there. I've been having arguments with quite a lot of leftists about this since I said that in the video earlier today. I'm not delighted over the deaths of any civilians at all. I thought I made that clear with my decrying the genocide that's been occurring for well over 600 days now. I don't do that.
So obviously shit's kicked off even more. Somehow shit's gotten worse under Bibi Netanyahu in Israel.
Yeah.
And it's up to us, intrepid podcasters, to fix it.
Let's do it. Let's do it right now. Can I actually ask you on the line of what I was going to say earlier, just on the subject line of what I was saying? Okay, so I seem to have run into a thing where this is no surprise to me, but there are a few leftists out there who want to rationalize the ways in which, because of mandatory military service in Israel, because of the majority sympathies towards ultra-Zionism, because of the radical settler colonial expansionist nature of that imperialist state, because of a whole range of things, and particularly because of the massive rightward shift in sentiment that we're all heard about since October the 7th, 2023, that it's not as simple as saying that every civilian in Israel is a civilian. And my response is, no, you're not going to catch me equivocating, because it does me more. People might have a point, but there might be an interesting longer discussion to have over how complicit in the ongoing genocide of Palestinians that the average citizen is, due to their military service. But you're not going to catch me equivocating on whether civilians might be able to be attacked or not, because that's my line. My whole point is that they shouldn't, you know what I mean? And I naturally apply that to Palestinians in a way that a lot of, that nobody in power in Israel ever does. Do you know what I mean? So I wondered what you all thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's, for me, okay, so I don't understand sport, right? I don't understand sport. This is where I'm going to start this.
Okay.
But for some bizarre reason, I can watch hours upon hours of rhythmic gymnastics. And like with the controversy around Eurovision and Israel participating in Eurovision, there's also the controversy around Israel still being eligible, to take part in international competition. At a time, particularly when Russia's been banned, at a time like giving people stage. Now, the one thing I noticed, and why I'm bringing rhythmic gymnastics into the mix, is
it's because you're obsessed.
It's because I'm obsessed, and because it's like one sport I understand. But the one sport that I understand just happens to have its major training facilities within the military institutions. So these sports stars that are training for tomorrow are all also active servicemen and women generally when they're training, order. And then a lot of them will finish up their mandatory service. They'll go out into the community. And I used to follow quite a few of them on the socials. And the minute that they're out the door, they'd finished competing, they'd finished their mandatory service, they were still shilling for that regime. So, I am sure that there's a lot of thinkers in Israel. I know that there are. I know that there are people who have been protesting for peace in the region for like decades upon decades. People like the Women in Black who've been gathering every week. That's been going on for a long time. But and of course I want civilians to be safe, but I also think that Israel needs to sit down and start unpacking itself and the kind of culture that they just reinforce over and over again, because it's like Russia uses their sports stars in order to push the propaganda, so too does Israel. And I guess this week in particular, I'm just thinking about the amount of propaganda that we're getting out there. So we need the language to unpack it, but we also do see and need to be engaging with the language of those who are unpacking it over there and that, because I don't think we want people to be safe. We don't want civilians to be hurt or killed or anything like that. But we also need to look at this deep roots where every single person is required to do military service and why that is.
Yeah, nationalist conditioning is a huge thing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's a lot to say here, but like none of this at all is in the interests of like the international working class. Like we can see,
Yeah.
like regardless of who's shooting the missiles, as soon as Israel launched their missiles at Iran, we saw the stock prices of BAE Systems, Lockheed Martin, Elbit skyrocket. They just immediately went up.
Also, fucking like crude oil and shit.
Yeah, and obviously, oil, this is negatively impacts the working class in fucking Australia, let alone Iran, but also negatively impacts the fucking working class of Israel. Obviously, yes, it's different, but still, like this is not in our class interests anywhere, and all of us everywhere, including in Israel, should be opposing this because it's all of our struggles are linked, and we can see who literally profits. Like we can see how much they profit when they do this, and it's not you. Like the guy in the fucking bomb shelter in Tel Aviv is not, his stocks aren't going up because he probably doesn't have a fucking stake in Elbit Systems or whatever. Like it's not this, none of this is in our interests, and we should oppose a war with Iran. We should oppose Australia's interests in Israel in a war with Iran, and we should oppose all of this. Like this is, it's quite simple. We know who's profiting from this. None of this is in our interests, and we're dying.
That's right. And I would say as an extension to that as well, I mean, no one on the street of any stripe of any nationality, of any persuasion, no average working class person or even for that matter, grunt in any military is really the beneficiary of this. Everyone's going to lose as a result of it. And certainly as regards the two governments concerned, Iran and Israel, well, they're authoritarian fascist state, frankly, in Iran. And they're attacking a fascist colony over Israel, backed by imperialism. I got no fucking dogs in that fight, except for innocent civilians. That's where I hang my hat,
The thing that you said there where you've got no dog in this fight, something that I'm fucking sick to death of seeing leftists do is slice every issue into two, pick one side, and then say that side is good with what it's doing and the other side is bad. It's this idea that we oppose Israel. We oppose Israel's genocide on it. So we're cheering for the genocide of Israelis. We're cheering, no. The whole thing is that we oppose these wars even if they fucking make sense. Iran striking Israel back makes sense to us because they didn't attack first, right? So in a geopolitical sense, and then someone can counter and say, actually, Iran was doing things first and we should support Israel, blah, blah, blah. But the whole thing is that even if the violence is justified, it can still be fucking tragic. This is the thing for me. Like any sort of revolution, any sort of freedom of oppression that involves civilians, involves people that are only implicitly involved in the subjugation, people tangentially involved. They might, in some cosmic sense, have it coming, quote unquote. But the whole thing is that if any group, if any state resorts to violence, it should only ever be considered a tragedy, even if it's righteous or justified or not. It's a fucking tragedy. It impacts us as a working class. It impacts us as fucking humans, and it should be opposed all the time. The reason why I'm not a pacifist is purely because there are fucking psychopaths who will start wars or who will fight themselves. Sometimes those people have to be countered, and it's tragic. That's it. It sucks shit. It doesn't have to be glorious. It doesn't have to be cool. It doesn't have to be celebrated.
I'd push back right at the start about what you said about picking a side and whatever, because there is a side, but it's not how the media and everyone, even in our normal conversations, frames it as Iran versus Israel. But no, it's the side of the international working class versus the international ruling class, which means we oppose. Yeah, and we do have a dog in that fight.
The nation states. or the artificially generated sides.
Yeah.
You will also see sides be brought up with like, Melbourne versus African gangs or whatever it is. Those confected sides, you shouldn't buy into the framing and then pick a side. And then, So no, good call on that. There is a stake. It's us versus them. It's the same struggle. It's the same warfare all the time. It's class war.
From my days of Middle Eastern politics and the fact that I'm really fucking old. So Cold War dynamics and how they were playing out for decades upon decades stated that the world superpowers were often funding both sides or supplying both sides of any conflict with weapons or supplies or whatever else, because it was in their interest to keep those conflicts going for as long as possible, because stock prices, dollar
elections,
prices,
whatever else.
Wars are, a great big money spinner. We know this. So we do need to look at those things. We need to trace who is profiteering from anything being flung over this side. But we also, I will say, the media showing the missiles hitting Tehran, and then within a couple of hours we've got Israel has declared a state of emergency. I mean, that was something. That's
embarrassing. Yeah. Like, fuck's sake.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, if we could have the media, I mean, I understand very well the concept that you can't have an impartial media. Of course you can't. There's no such thing as objective reporting. But if we could at least have an attempt at, like, again, not this maddening, I talked about it last time I was on the pod, but just the maddening view of the ABC even, let alone like the project, RIP, suck shit. Like, just quick on that. Walid Ali wrote an article about how the project shouldn't be cancelled. Fucking narcissist. You're a fucking loser.
Yeah. I was thinking about making a meme about the, the like Assad is like who must go meme, and it, like the me on the project getting grilled and me on Q&A getting grilled, and then both of them getting
but so just like the reporting that we've all seen is just at odds with the shit that we all have access to, like, Palestinian journalists themselves, let alone Al Jazeera, let alone shared content from all across the world. And like, it's never felt more broken at the moment to see this shit. And to see like Bibi Netanyahu on my phone and then on the ABC saying, we struck first, that was preemptive, we did it, we absolutely struck first. And the ABC being like, that's probably justified. And then Iran firing missiles back where civilians are dying fucking both ways, just going, can't believe the barbarians did this.
They've done this. Why did they do this?
Before it used to be like, a George Carlin-esque, like, oh, the media lies to you, man. It's all bullshit. But now it genuinely feels like my mind is sort of being rendered asunder by this cognitive dissonance that these journalists and that Penny Wong must have, and that they're trying to force on me. And it's just like, no. That's not reality, guys. Sorry. So I think, like, for anyone listening, you're not alone. Everything feels fucking fever dreamish at the moment, because our upper class, our ruling class, and the media lapdogs have a narrative to run. They have a script that they need to maintain, and we're being forced to consume it if we consume anything from them. It's maddening. It's fucking mad.
But we'll have to put all this, we'll have to set all this aside and take up arms, because we need to get in there and free Nova Paris. We need to, do you agree? We need to go in there and get over it. Israel's
no, oh God, that was a lead-in. That was a lead-in, Tom. Jesus.
What do we think about that?
Let's set the table. First off, I think for a lot of people, who is Nova Paris? What are you talking about? Who is that?
Yeah. Let's get in there. Well, Nova Paris is an Order of Australia medal recipient, an Olympic Games gold medalist, a famous
in what, gymnastics?
Australian field track runner, and a famous Indigenous Australian.
Hockey, and running. She represented Australia
in the 1990s. Is that right? Yes.
And just
1996 Olympic Games. Yeah, thank you.
And then a couple of Commonwealths or other, around them.
So
former senator, the ALP. So was quite infamously, Julia Gillard's captain pick, which at the time hit the media like a ton of bricks. You might remember. But she was the first Indigenous woman senator. Mm-hmm. So, to be elected. So obviously there's been more since. But yeah, this is a woman, who I did spend a lot of time admiring. I saw her battles when she was a senator and saw her cop some extraordinarily gruesome racism. And there are columns where I was calling that out. But I think that what has been hard to watch is since October the 7th and all that happened, she has been coming more and more furiously down on the side of the Zionist lobby, of supporting Israel, and in a way that is designed to undermine other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander solidarity actions with Palestine. I think that she, in a way, she's sort of has really sort of framed her support for Israel, in the face of what is a misinformation campaign going on in Indigenous groups. So yeah, I don't know if that's a good enough sum, but it's been really quite troubling to watch, to be honest. Yeah,
she's really done a number. I mean, this is a very esteemed person, as you'd really just outlined, with a lot of a great history, a lot of firsts, a lot of achievements, a very esteemed and well-known and well-loved person who's really gone to bat with a very antagonistic kind of, I think, solidarity for Israel that's very much focused on, there's been many times where she, along with Professor Marcia Langton, has been put on for spots in the Australian, specifically for the purpose of attacking Indigenous activists or commentators who've declared solidarity with Palestine, questioning the very notion of it, questioning Palestinian guests on Q&A who had the lapel pin, as I recall, of that lovely lapel pin of the Palestinian flag and the Aboriginal flag side by side, and saying, that should not, that those two don't go together. Who gave you the right? It's been a very antagonistic solidarity, and it's been a completely unquestioning solidarity with Zionism. I've always wondered if Nova Peris, I don't know Nova Peris to save my life, but I always wondered if this is the power of, everyone likes a free holiday, but she's only been on 2 junkets to Israel, and they've both been since, post October the 7th, 2023. So we're not talking about someone with a very long and standing history of deep entrenchment in Zionist circles. It's all been post then. And I have wondered if this began with certain connections from, she always described it as being a solidarity with Israel out of she always praises the work of,
Mark Liebler,
Mark Liebler and such, and the certain Jewish lawyers that helped out with Mabo. She's always praised their work, and she said they became her friends over those years. And so in the wake of October the 7th, 2023, she started listening to them. They were her social circles, and that's kind of where her solidarity with Zionism stemmed from. But it's become a very unquestioning one. In fact, it very quickly did, you know what I mean? And it wasn't very in the wake of the Sydney Opera House rallies that took place, you remember the ones that were famously misquoted where people, that's right, edited from people saying anti-Semitic things that they were saying that protest organisers shut them down for, I might add.
Yeah.
Edited so that they were saying, misquoted in subtitles saying openly genocidal stuff, which could obviously be shut down as terrorist stuff. You know, she was one of the people who was questioning that right away. You know,
I just want to look back real quick. Oh, sorry, Celeste.
Yeah, look, I did just want to throw something else in my intro, just so we're covering it. Her and Dan Andrews are currently the patrons of Labour Friends of Israel.
What?
Yeah.
I fucking hate Dan Andrews so much.
Oh, look, don't start me on Dan Andrews.
So this is something I wanted to just go back to real quick. Tom, you mentioned the junkets that they go on. And if people don't know.
I mentioned the junkets, yeah.
There is this thing that Israel does where it flies people out, celebrities, politicians, ex-politicians, media figures, whatever, influential people, but broadly. Very broadly. And I've actually heard that some of the time, at least, what they do, apparently, is fly them out very vaguely. And then when they get there, say, oh, you actually have to be posting at least once a day on your social media about how great Israel is. And they don't know that until they get there. But it's like an all expenses paid trip where they roll out the red carpet and they give them this good thing. And it really does seem most of the time, well, actually, a fun exercise you can do is if you see an article that is really oddly pro-Israel in any of the like media circuits, or if someone does an editorial, just look up to see if they've gone on these junkets, and they probably fucking have, right?
Yeah, or whether their editor has.
Yeah, yeah.
Crikey's Daniel Said actually published an article, sorry to interrupt me, just on this subject. He published a very rigorous big list of as many people as he could locate at that time. Yeah. And this was like November 2023. There's been a lot more of them on junkets since then. But for that time, he published a very exhaustive list of people, anyone he could find, politicians, media figures, public figures who had been on these AJAC-funded tours to Israel. But sorry, go ahead, Mitch.
These people tend to come back and be like really, really intensely like
proper brainwashed.
And so I was wondering though, like, do they go over there and like take them into a smoky room and like show them how they've had like rifles trained on them in their home back in Australia? Like, is it a thing where it's just like, hey, all expenses paid trip, and they get in the room and it's like, do you fucking say something nice or we will gut your whole family? Like, it's beyond just like, oh, I had a really good time and was treated really well, so I'm gonna start shilling for Israel. It's like it's absurd the level that a lot of these people come back with this project. I have to imagine there is either like some type of like CIA Mossad crossover type brainwashing going on with like the microwaves or whatever, or threatening.
In America, well, they have AIPAC, which is huge. You know what I mean? I mean, it dwarfs AJAC in size and resources. But in AIPAC, you don't just get sent to Israel for a trip. You also get for want of a better word, a handler or a person who's responsible for staying in touch with you and cultivating that relationship.
Yeah.
And my guess is that AJAC do something of the, they have people that stay in touch with someone before, during, after the trip, keep the relationship going. Because like I've been on many holidays here or there. If you sent me on a Friday holiday somewhere, I'd be delighted. But I wouldn't change my whole politics for it. Yeah. What does change people's politics is relationships. And it's been all the good relationship building that the Israel lobby has done in times well before October the 7th, 2023. Because there's always been a Zionist project worth, that they needed to be sustained with fucking, like with lobbying and with political interests here and abroad and every Western nation, I think they have handlers as well. I do. I think the politicians have their handlers.
Yeah. Look, I did want to pull it back a bit before we go too tangential, but I do recommend everyone goes and jumps on Amy Maguire's Substack, which was published earlier today. It's called
today,
yeah, Black Justice Journalism, and Amy actually, sorry, my dog just slammed the door while I'm trying to talk about it.
I hate reading.
Amy has actually highlighted who it is that's on this trip and what their sort of links are. And, you know, one of the people that's on it is great friend of, Indigenous affairs writer and of the Australian Paige Taylor. So, you know, that wonderful progressive Indigenous rights newspaper that we all know and love. But also, you know, some other key people like Paris's husband is there. You've got an Indigenous ophthalmologist. You've got, you know, these elders from various groups and that. So it is very targeted, and it's targeted towards people who I guess will be perceived to be influential in the various areas they work in, communities they service, whatever else. Never mind, as Amy rightly points out, that if you're going to get the first Indigenous ophthalmologist over there for a tour for a state that's gone and bombed out all the hospitals in Gaza, it doesn't make an awful lot of sense. But, you know, I really actually appreciated that unpacking of who's there and why it is that they might be targeting these groups. I think that, you know, I'm theorizing, but I think that there is an actual concerted effort right now, at least to frame the Indigenous or to pull back in that Indigenous well, it was actually Indigenous Jewish solidarity. That's why William Cooper marched. He marched because Jewish people were being persecuted during Kristallnacht. He did not march because he supported the Israeli ethno-state. Full stop. But there's that long history of collaboration, and I can't help but think this is a concerted effort that's actually targeting Indigenous people of influence right now in order to do these sorts of things and continue that on in the face of what has been some very, very solid Indigenous Palestinian solidarity movement.
Yeah. So, Jordan, it's come to my attention via social media that you recently, and by recently I mean last year, but it's only been posted now, were at the Festival of Dangerous Ideas, which is the solidly upper middle class TED Talk titillation festival where they have such groundbreaking ideas as, what if we demonized the bottom 1%? And you managed to appear at that on a panel, and it's only been posted now. Talk us through the university equivalent of Dark Mofo. How was the Festival of Dangerous Ideas, and did you come away scared but illuminated and vibing on ideas?
It was very white. It was very old in terms of the audience and stuff. And it was quite funny because literally the first thing, like, we get on the stage and, you know, the first thing that the host does is naturally an land acknowledgement, and then is like, also I do want to just say that you know, this panel is quite pale, and also if you put out all of our last names together, it'd sound like a New York City law firm who would represent Donald Trump. So it was quite funny. Like, that was very funny. But yeah, no, I didn't leave. Mixed emotions from the whole thing.
So what was the panel you were on?
So it was called, the panel that I was on, this segment was called The Pitchforks Are Coming. And it was about, you know, growing inequality, like the world getting fucked, and, like, you know, are the pitchforks coming kind of thing, like, and should they be, and like all that kind of stuff. And the other two members on the panel, one was like a dean at a university, and the other one was another, you know, scholar who has written a lot of books about, like, the elite and private schools as well, which are great books. But like, I think, like, a lot of respect for both of them, but they're very liberal, like illiberal in the small L sense, but, like, you know, we can nicer capitalism kind of liberal.
Yeah. Because that's the thing. The footage that I saw going around was sort of asking the question of, like, hey, literally, are the pitchforks coming? Should there be weapons? And their two answers are like, no, there shouldn't be violence, but, there are things to sort of go. And your response was beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. So, because like right at the start, the host was like, should the pitchforks be coming? Rather than like, are they, or like, what was that going to look like or whatever. It was like the kind of intro to the whole thing. Like after painting the pictures, like, should the pitchforks be coming? And the first guy that he asked, which was the Dean guy, he was like, no, not violence. But like, obviously agreeing with the sentiment that like, there should be
change.
Something should change, but not violence. And then the second one says like, metaphorically they should be coming. And then it gets to me and I'm like looking at the audience, just fucking like old white people, these two white liberal people, and I wasn't about to get into the concepts of state violence and like blah 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 blah. So I was like, it's a little bit of a cop out coming from my end, but you can kind of see that I'm almost explicitly calling for violence by not saying that. And I'm like, fucking who am I, fucking this guy called Purple Pingers on the internet, to say how some oppressed person should seek their liberation? Like, what the fuck? Why are you asking me that? But also, yes, like, of course.
It got a little applause break. The old whites in the audience were like,
that was unexpected. Hey. That was incredibly they literally, and then they clapped is like a story that you fucking say if you, and then there was applause. But like, there was. Everyone was like, this is fucking dumb. Why are you saying no?
So I think this is the thing too, is that like part of the reason you got the applause break there is that like you said the unexpected thing that was also the bare truth thing. They repeated the things that you should say. You should, if you're on a panel and you're a dean of university, you say no violence and then you talk around the edges. And everyone knows it. And so everyone goes, oh, that's what I'm going to hear. And then they hear it. And so I think you, in a perfect like open mic comedy vibe, hit the unexpected. And everyone went, oh, and then listened and heard it. Was like, yeah, actually. And it's like, fuck. And there's this release of just like, someone's actually saying the correct thing. Oh, thank God.
Like I do, like, I think there's also a little bit of like irony. Like, you're fucking like, why the fuck are you asking? Who the fuck do we think we are? Like, to be like, yes, I'm the fucking arbiter of, whether or not you should do, like, fuck off. Like, and then, I feel like people recognize that. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, come on.
But so, Celeste, you've also got a history with the Festival of Dangerous Ideas, yeah? We've got luminaries on the pod.
I had to Google it because I'm just like, hang on.
Did I do that?
Yeah, but I believe, and my apologies to the festival directors if I'm getting my information asked about here, but I believe that very briefly for a period it was known as the Antidote Festival. So it started as the Festival of Dangerous Ideas, took a year or so off from that title and became Antidote, and now it seems to have gone back.
Too many dangerous ideas one year.
Oh, my God. Who knew? But it's at the Opera House, yeah?
Yeah. Around, it's always Sydney somewhere fancy in Sydney.
Yeah, so this was at the Opera House in 2017. I appeared on it. For the life of me, I can't remember what the panel was about, but I do remember me and Rennie Edo-Lodge, who wrote that awesome book, Why I'm Not Speaking to White People About Race Anymore, ended up having this awesome conversation, probably at the cost of the other panelists. So that my experience of it was pretty good, but it was a long time ago. The Opera House is such a weird space to work with, actually, when it comes to those sorts of things, particularly if you're used to your more community-based or organisey sort of based or whatever else kind of spaces where you're usually in a shitty chair and table up the
100%.
front with people scribbling your notes.
Yeah, like Catalyst.
yeah. All of a sudden you're up on a stage of the Opera House, which I've now done a few times. That and Antidote and All About Women is where I've been there. And it's just, I got to say, you're in this real lush sort of environment, but you go walking through the rabbit warren at the back and geez, it's a rundown old shit inside. It's really interesting. So yeah, I too have had my time in the intervening years where it wasn't the Festival of Dangerous Ideas, but rather it was that positive antidote to.
Nice. That's nicer. I feel like that's less confrontational. The antidote. That's nice.
Yeah.
There's this article from Pedestrian saying, talking about at the time, like the Festival of Dangerous Ideas is no more. The Sydney Opera House has axed it and are replacing it with a progressive ideas, art, and action festival. With, talking about how it's hope and progressive and whatnot, which is very funny to me that was like pre-COVID lockdowns and everything. And now they've just brought the Festival of Dangerous Ideas back. I was like, you know what doesn't sell? Hope. They're fucking nothing. You know what we need? Yeah, just shitty ideas that we take
needed to
seriously
make
for a
this
bit.
more liberal somehow. What was the audience like when you did it?
It's such a bizarre space. So yeah, they seem to be quite receptive. But as I said, I feel like myself and Rennie at O-Lodge, given that we spoke about given that we speak a lot about race politics from both of us, ended up being in this space where we were having quite an awesome conversation between us, and the audience seemed to be quite receptive. But you can't always tell because it's these big dark rooms, and
dark,
they're in this pit, and you can't get much of a scope of the audience. So how they reacted, I can't honestly remember, but it's always an interesting space to be in.
Yeah, because my one was at Carriage Work, so I could see everyone. It was the audience was like a Writers' Week kind of audience, like a. If they were outside, they would have been wearing those like Panama hats, kind of like.
The white linens.
100%, a lot of white linen. Yeah.
So, what do you two think is the merit of something like the Festival of Dangerous Ideas? It's basically like, Devil's Advocate, the festival, and it tries to present itself as like it's confrontational and it exists because, God damn it, we need to have these conversations. They're difficult, but there's worth in having these conversations.
Yeah, we got to do the spiky stuff.
Yeah, but also they're expensive tickets at the Sydney Opera House. So who is listening to it, and what do we get from it? Like, did either of you feel like anyone actually thought any of the ideas were dangerous in either discussing them or contemplating them?
I think for mine, definitely there was a lot of like I almost explicitly called for violence and stuff. I think,
but then you got an applause, right? So
but that was unexpected, and I think that would have been unexpected to the organizers as well. But like the whole kind of thing is like, we're shifting the Overton window to the left by having this thing, and you have like well respected fucking scholars and authors that have like bestsellers and shit like that like are genuinely well and truly within the Overton window, and like myself included. Like I've been on the news and shit like that. Like this is not like it's obviously to the fringe of the window that is acceptable, but like we're still in there, definitely. Otherwise I wouldn't fucking be there. Yeah.
Look, I don't know. I mean, I do like the idea that we can get some of the norm cores and perhaps confront them a little bit with some actual dangerous ideas through the course of them thinking that they're going to be confronting dangerous ideas and not. So I do like that idea. Maybe that's the most dangerous idea I like, just planting some of us in those sorts of spaces and seeing what happens next. But yeah, there isn't anything really particularly progressive about those spaces. They are a little bit prohibitive with prices and with, you know, they're not really, they are very individualistic focused. So people are on those panels because they represent a certain view. And particularly in the case of Festival of Dangerous Ideas, they want a little bit of political variety, but not something that's going to end up dragged down fighting on the stage. So they will pick people from different political backgrounds to get conflicting views.
Like they had Andrew Bolt at one point.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, let's hear from him. What does he have to say? Oh, let's confront him. It's just like, I don't know. I think there's much more merit in listening to 4 solid lefties on a podcast. For free.
Yeah, I agree. Like that. I think there's no way that they'd probably invite either of us back now. Like, there's like that's not like, you know, even in Overton window, like, and being within it aside, it's like fucking. Oh, they'd fucking know that I'm pro-insurrection. Now, I'm not going to ask him to the like, oh, should the pitchforks be coming now? Like, we know the answer.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Radical Online Leftist Pipeline podcast. If you have a question, if you have a query, if you have a hot lefty take, if you want to get in touch with us and ask us when the next episode will be, shoot us an email, alpdotgov@proton.me. I feel like I just want to say now as well, we have had some people like reach out about like, when's the next pod? Because we didn't do one last week. And I just sort of want to like place the flag here now. We don't have a schedule. We deliberately don't have a schedule because fuck having a schedule for something that I enjoy doing with mates that doesn't fucking pay me. Like, we do this when we want to. If we can't or don't want to some weeks, we just won't. We don't have a day. Specifically for me, I edit the pod. I don't want to feel under pressure like it's got to come out on this day. It comes out when it comes out, and we all celebrate when it comes out. Fucking or Andrew Holmes at Court, whatever his name is, Simon Holmes at Court.
Yeah.
Simon Holmes at Court can pay me a lot of money to get this out on a weekly schedule, but otherwise,
we're gonna start talking about like fucking solar panels or something. Let's get so. Although, also I do want to say it was really nice to see that the person that was like, "When the fuck is that?"
Coming out? My fucking podcast. Like, oh, someone wants
that
to
was
listen
like,
oh,
they like us.
Yeah, you lazy fucking pricks, get the fucking podcast out. Oh, look at that. Yeah. All right, bam.